I used to think that if I kept the peace, people would treat me with the same grace. That if I swallowed my pride, if I gave more than I received, maybe, just maybe, I'd be enough. But I was wrong. Some people see kindness as a green light, a weakness, a pass to take everything and give nothing. So when my stepmother swapped my kids out of a trip I planned for her golden grandkids, I didn't lose my mind. I made a decision that none of them will ever forget. It was a rainy Thursday evening when the whole thing started unraveling. The kind of evening where the sky looks like a scratched chalkboard and the air smells like wet pavement and regret. I was wiping spaghetti sauce off the countertop when my 9-year-old, Zoe, burst in like a whirlwind. "Mom, is it really happening? The cruise? Nana told Jack and me it's this Saturday." I smiled, ruffling her tangled ponytail. "Yup, 3 more sleeps. You and your brother are going to live like royalty on that ship." She let out an excited squeal and spun around in her socks, sliding halfway across the kitchen tiles. This cruise wasn't just a vacation, it was a thank you. I'd been juggling work, therapy appointments, school drop-offs, and everything in between as a single mom. So when I got a bonus at work, I booked an extravagant cruise, 7 days of sun, sweets, and spoiling for my kids and their grandparents. My dad and stepmom wouldn't have to pay a cent. I handled everything down to the pineapple cocktails. My only condition? The trip was for Zoe and her brother Caleb. That was it. At 7:03 p.m., right on cue, my dad and stepmother showed up. They never knocked, just walked in like they paid the mortgage. I braced myself. My stepmother, Lydia, floated into the room like a puff of Chanel No. 5. Her nails were blood red, her smile was rehearsed. My dad shuffled behind her, carrying a bottle of wine he didn't pick. "Darling," Lydia sang, "we need to talk about the cruise." My stomach did a somersault. I dried my hands and gave a polite nod. "Sure, what's up?" She sat like she owned the house, crossing one leg over the other with so much elegance. It made me nervous. "We've made a tiny adjustment," she said, with the same tone she used to suggest throwing out my mother's china. "Olivia's kids are going instead." I blinked. "What?" My dad stared at the wine bottle like it might open itself. "Liam and Ava," Lydia continued, sipping her tea like we were discussing weather. "They've had a rough year. Divorce, tutors, behavioral therapy. They need this trip more than, well, your kids." My brain stalled. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. "You replaced my children?" "They'll get their turn, honey. Just not this time. I figured this could be a good lesson for them." "For you too." I didn't scream. I didn't throw the mug in my hand or demand explanations. Instead, I smiled. "Oh," I said calmly, "I see." And then, without breaking eye contact, I pulled out my phone and canceled every last part of the trip. Click. Gone. Flights, suites, excursions, all reversed with a few swipes and a well-placed travel insurance clause. Lydia's face went from smug to confused in 0.5 seconds. "What? What are you doing?" I held up the screen. "Just fixing a mistake. My mistake. You're joking." I slid my phone back into my pocket. "Nope." Her jaw twitched. My dad finally spoke. "You canceled the cruise?" "Yes." But we leave in 2 days." I shrugged. "Not anymore." The silence in the room was thunderous. Lydia looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. "You're being childish." "And you," I said, still smiling, "are being entitled." She gasped like I'd slapped her. "You can't just, I can just." Because it was my money, my gift. "And you don't get to edit generosity like it's a dinner menu." My dad sat down heavily. "This is going to upset a lot of people. Then maybe they'll finally understand what happens when you cross the line." For years, I'd been the easy one. The daughter who didn't fight. The one who bent so others wouldn't break. But that night, I was done bending. Later that evening, after the storm had blown out of my kitchen and left me in blessed silence, my sister Olivia called. I didn't answer. She texted, "Olivia, are you freaking serious? You canceled the cruise?" "Olivia," Mom said it was a misunderstanding. "Fix it." "Olivia, the kids are crushed. Do you even care?" "Oh, I cared. I cared deeply. Just not in the way she wanted me to." 20 minutes later, she was on my doorstep, banging like a repo man with a deadline. "Open the damn door, Maya!" The the first opened it. Olivia stormed in, her Gucci heels stabbing my hardwood like tiny weapons. Her makeup was flawless, her tone, not so much. "You humiliated Mom." "She humiliated herself," I said simply. "She was just trying to do what was fair. By removing my children from my trip, Liam and Ava have 2 parents, 2 homes, 2 incomes. My kids have me." Olivia looked like she'd swallowed something bitter. "You overreacted." "And you," I said coldly, "undermined me." She froze. I knew that look. It was the moment she realized I wasn't the same person she grew up bossing around. "I'm billing Mom for the non-refundable deposits," I added, just to twist the knife a little deeper. Her eyes widened. "You wouldn't." I pulled up the invoice on my phone. $6,000, upgrades, private excursions. "You know things your kids usually don't get. You're insane," she muttered. "No, just tired." I walked her to the door. "Tell Mom she can keep her grandkids, but next time she wants a luxury trip, she can pay for it herself." Then I shut the door. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't feel like the villain for standing up for myself. I thought the worst was over once I shut the door in Olivia's face. Turns out, that was just the trailer. The feature-length drama started the next morning bright and early with a phone call from my dad. I let it go to voicemail. Then came 3 missed calls. A text from Lydia. Then Olivia again. It was like a digital family reunion, just without the casseroles. By 9 a.m., I had a headache and 0 caffeine. Caleb was halfway through his cereal when I finally gave in and answered. "Dad," I said flatly. He sighed, like my name alone was a disappointment. "Can we talk?" "We are." A pause. "Did you really cancel the entire cruise?" "Yup. And ask your stepmother to reimburse non-refundable costs?" "She made a non-refundable decision." He groaned quietly on the other end. "Sweetheart, you know she meant well." I nearly laughed. "Is that what we're calling emotional manipulation now?" "She thought it would be best for everyone. Everyone except my kids," I snapped, sharper than I meant to. "Let me guess, you didn't know she switched them out until she told me." Another silence. "Yeah, that's what I thought." I looked out the kitchen window as Caleb dropped more cereal on the floor than in his mouth. "Dad, you've stood by her so many times I've stopped counting. But this was the final straw." She made a judgment call. "No," I said, keeping my voice steady. "She made a power move. And you let her." He went quiet again, and I could tell he wanted to fight it, wanted to find some fatherly justification to throw at me like a Band-Aid. But he didn't, because there wasn't one. "She said you blindsided her, that you embarrassed her." I rubbed my temple. "She embarrassed herself when she uninvited my children from a trip I paid for without a single conversation." More silence. "Then, this is tearing the family apart." I breathed in through my nose and exhaled slowly. "No, Dad. It was already broken. I just stopped pretending it wasn't." And then I hung up. By midday, the group chat with family had turned into a passive-aggressive battlefield. Lydia was firing off guilt missiles. Olivia was acting like a PR rep trying to do damage control. "Lydia, you humiliated me in front of your father, after everything I've done for you." "Olivia, can we be adults? This drama isn't helping anyone." "Lydia, you'll regret this when the kids ask why Nana isn't around anymore." "Me, you're right. I'll regret not doing it sooner." I muted the chat. If they wanted to play dirty, they were going to learn that I'd been cleaning up other people's messes for too long to care anymore. That night, Zoe crawled into bed beside me. She didn't say anything. She just curled up next to me, her little hand resting on my arm like she was trying to anchor herself in a storm. She didn't understand. "Mom," she whispered, "is Nana mad at me?" My chest cracked open. "No, baby," I murmured. "None of this is your fault." "Then why aren't we going?" "Because sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt people. And sometimes we have to stop them even if they're family." She didn't reply, just nodded against my shoulder and drifted off. And I lay there staring at the ceiling, furious that a trip meant to bring joy had turned into this toxic circus. The next day, Olivia sent me a text that was more dramatic than a season finale cliffhanger. "Olivia, Mom is talking to a lawyer." I almost choked on my coffee. Then another message. "Olivia, she says you defamed her, that you embarrassed her in front of Dad's friends." She wants a public apology. Oh, Lydia, you wanted a lesson? You're about to get one. I took a breath, opened my laptop, and pulled up the contract. See, I wasn't stupid. 2 months ago, when I booked the cruise, something told me to put the terms in writing. A short clause that stated the trip was a gift for Zoe and Caleb, and that any changes would forfeit the investment. Lydia signed it. She wanted my money, not my boundaries. Guess she should have read the fine print. By noon, I'd sent a copy of the document to Olivia. 15 minutes later, Olivia called, panic in her voice. She signed that? Sure did. You're bluffing. I forwarded the email thread. With the timestamp, with Lydia's thank you, this means so much to us. Reply. You're kidding, she whispered. She's going to freak out. She already did. This is just the sequel. Then I added one more thing. I'm not suing. Yet. But if she keeps threatening me, I'll make sure every dollar comes back. With interest. That evening, I got an unexpected visitor. My dad. He stood on my porch looking 10 years older than he did last week. I don't want to fight, he said, before I could say anything. I just want to understand. So I let him in. We sat on opposite ends of the couch like strangers. She told me you made it all about money, he said. No, I replied. She made it about control. I made it about consequences. He looked down at his hands. She's been crying for 2 days. She made my daughter think she wasn't good enough. Let her cry. You know she sees Olivia's kids more. She's just closer to them because she decided to be. My voice cracked a little there. Zoe asked me if she did something wrong, I added quietly. That's what your wife did. His eyes finally met mine. There was guilt in them. Real, honest, overdue guilt. I never meant for you to feel like an outsider. You didn't have to mean it. You just had to let it happen. He nodded. And for a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe he got it. Can I talk to the kids? He asked. Of course. But not here. Not until she apologizes. And if she doesn't? I stood up. Then she can live with the consequences. Just like I did. That night, I poured a glass of wine and sat on my porch alone, watching the sun dip below the rooftops. I wasn't celebrating. Not yet. But I wasn't crumbling either. There was a new feeling taking root in me. Not pride, not victory. Something quieter, something stronger. Peace. For once, I wasn't the one sacrificing myself to keep the family happy. And for once, the fallout didn't scare me. 3 days passed. 3 days of silence. No calls, no texts. Not even a passive-aggressive meme from Olivia, which had to be some kind of record. At first, it was unsettling. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then I realized something. The shoe had already dropped, and it landed on them, not me. Zoe and Caleb were fine. Better than fine, actually. We'd spent the weekend at the Science Center, gotten ice cream for dinner, and built a cardboard spaceship that now took up half the living room. They didn't bring up the cruise again. I think they sensed it wasn't about the trip anymore. It was about something bigger. I wasn't angry anymore, just clear. Clear about what I would and wouldn't tolerate going forward. Then Monday hit, and Monday came with a knock. Not a soft tap, not a friendly 3-rap rhythm. No, this knock was aggressive. It was Lydia's knock. I didn't flinch. Just opened the door, leaned against the frame, and waited. She looked worse than usual. Hair too perfect. Makeup like war paint. The kind of look someone wears when they're about to gaslight you into thinking you're the crazy one. Maya, she said coolly, we need to talk. You always say that, and it's never a conversation. It's a lecture. Her jaw tightened. Can I come in? No. She blinked. Excuse me? You don't get to walk into my house and dictate the terms anymore. She crossed her arms, clearly rattled. Fine. Then I'll say it here. Go ahead, I said, folding my arms. This behavior, this vendetta, it's not only immature, it's damaging. To your father, to Olivia, to the kids, no, I cut in, voice firm. What's damaging is pretending everything's okay when it's not. What's damaging is teaching my kids that love is conditional. Her lips parted, like she wanted to argue, but I didn't let her. You crossed a line. You don't get to walk back over it because the fallout makes you uncomfortable. Lydia wasn't used to people standing their ground, especially not me. She wasn't sure what to do with this version of me, the one who wasn't bending or breaking. "I'm trying to fix this," she said, voice dropping to that overly calm register people use when they're trying to sound reasonable, but are really one bad moment from exploding. "No," I replied. "You're trying to fix your image. Big difference." Her nostrils flared. "You always play the victim, and you always play the martyr," I shot back. "We all have roles, don't we? Yours is rewriting history. Mine used to be swallowing it." She stepped forward. I didn't move. I was trying to do what was best for the family. You were doing what was best for your version of it. One where I pay, smile, and disappear in the background. "You're twisting this." "No," I said softly. "I'm finally telling the truth out loud." She stared at me, lips trembling ever so slightly. For a second, just a flicker, I thought maybe she'd apologize. Maybe she'd say, "You're right. I messed up. I'm sorry." But she didn't. Instead, she said, "You're blowing everything out of proportion." And that was the end of that. I closed the door. That night, I got a text from Olivia. "Olivia, Mom's saying you threatened her. She's spiraling." I didn't reply. Let her spiral. The next morning, I dropped Zoe and Caleb off at school, picked up a latte, and sat in the car for a moment, staring at the dashboard. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called my therapist. Dr. Stern hadn't heard from me since I graduated from weekly sessions a while back. Thinking I had it all handled. "Back again?" she asked kindly when she picked up. "Yeah," I said. "Turns out boundaries come with backlash." "Who knew?" She laughed softly. "You finally said no, didn't you?" Loudly, I said. "And I don't think they're ever going to forgive me for it." She paused. "And how do you feel about that?" I was quiet for a moment. "I think I'm okay with it." Later that afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something told me to answer. It was my dad. "Maya," he said, "I'm at your front door. Can we talk?" I sighed. "Are you alone?" "Yes." I let him in. He looked tired, older than last week, like the tension had carved new lines into his face. "I read the contract," he said, settling onto the couch like it was foreign territory. "And?" "She signed it. Clear as day. She did." He nodded, slow and heavy. "She says, you tricked her." "I didn't." He didn't argue, just sat in silence, staring at the carpet like it held answers. "She's angry," he said after a while, "but mostly scared." Of what? Losing the illusion that she runs everything. That caught me off guard. My dad wasn't the introspective type. He usually hid behind silence, behind the idea that staying neutral was some kind of wisdom. "But she never did run everything," I said. "I just let her think she did." He looked at me then. Really looked. "I should have protected you more. I didn't say anything," because he wasn't wrong. And hearing him admit, it felt like something was finally cracking open. Not breaking, just letting in air. "I don't know how to fix all of this," he said quietly. "I'm not asking you to," I replied. "I just want you to stop pretending everything she does is okay." He nodded. "I can do that." That night, I didn't check my phone once. No doom scrolling, no rereading texts, or anticipating fallout. I tucked my kids in, watched a movie that wasn't animated, and made popcorn without burning it for once. And somewhere between the opening credits and the final scene, I realized something. I had spent years putting my peace on layaway, thinking one day I'd be allowed to cash it in. But peace doesn't come when others give it to you. It comes when you decide you're worth it, even if no one else claps, even if no one understands, even if your own family can't handle the version of you that says, "No more." And I had finally said it. By Thursday, I noticed something strange. The silence felt different. It wasn't heavy anymore. It wasn't the kind of silence that followed arguments and hung in the air like smoke. This was clearer, lighter. It felt like walking into a room after opening all the windows. I could breathe. The messages had slowed down. Lydia had gone quiet, at least publicly. Olivia stopped trying to fix things. And my dad, well, he was trying. We weren't back to father-daughter brunches, but at least he was seeing the cracks he used to pretend weren't there. And me? I wasn't looking for a fight. I didn't want to punish anyone. I just didn't want to disappear anymore. The following morning, something unexpected happened. My doorbell rang. I opened it cautiously, half expecting Lydia's perfume to hit me in the face like a fog machine. But it wasn't her. It was Ava, my niece, 14 years old, too grown for her age, standing awkwardly on my front step like she wasn't sure if she was about to be hugged or sent away. "Hey," she mumbled, eyes down. "Hey," I said, surprised. "Everything okay?" She shrugged. Then she looked up, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can I come in? I made us hot cocoa. The real kind, not the powdery stuff from a packet." Ava sat at the counter, fingers curled around her mug like it was the only warm thing she'd felt all week. After a few quiet minutes, she finally said it. "I didn't want to go." "To the cruise?" She nodded. "Liam either. But Mom said it was happening and not to argue." I sat down across from her. "Why didn't you say anything?" She looked at me, eyes brimming. "Because when we say no," she calls it attitude. "And when we say yes, it's still not enough." My heart cracked. Ava was never the problem. Neither was Liam. The problem was a system that rewarded silence and punished boundaries. "You're not responsible for this," I said gently. "But I feel like I stole it from Zoe and Caleb." "No," I told her firmly. "You didn't take anything. This wasn't your choice. And if anything, you just reminded me why standing up mattered." She smiled weakly. "Zoe's lucky. She has you." I reached across the counter and gave her hand a light squeeze. "So do you. Maybe not in the same way. But I'm still here." That afternoon, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I didn't answer. They left a voicemail. It was Lydia. "Maya, I heard Ava came by. I would appreciate you not interfering with my parenting. You've made enough of a mess as it is." I listened to the message twice. Once with disbelief, once with clarity. Lydia didn't care about fixing anything. She cared about control. And the moment someone challenged that even her own granddaughter, she panicked. I didn't call her back. Instead, I texted Olivia. "Ava came over. She's hurting. She needs you to listen, not defend." "Olivia," she said something. "Me? Yeah, more than you probably want to hear." No reply. But later that night, I saw Ava's bike in front of her house. That was something. The next morning, I got another visitor. Not Lydia, not Olivia. My dad, again. He looked different this time. Less burdened, more solid. "I talked to your sister," he said, stepping inside. "How'd that go?" she cried. He said simply. "Said she's been trying so hard to keep everything from falling apart that she didn't realize she was part of what's breaking it." I nodded. Then he looked at me carefully. "I want to ask something." "Go ahead." "If I asked you to meet with Lydia neutral ground, no fighting, would you consider it?" I paused. Not because I wanted to argue, but because that part of me, the one that used to jump at any chance to smooth things over, was quiet now. That part wasn't in charge anymore. Only if she comes with no demands. No guilt. Just truth. "I'll tell her," he said. "Good." We met at the park. I picked the place. Public. Open. Safe. She arrived 10 minutes late. Sunglasses on. Posture rigid. Like she was attending a deposition, not a conversation. I stayed seated on the bench. Didn't stand. Didn't flinch. She took the spot beside me. Silence stretched between us. "I didn't come here to argue," she said, carefully measured. "Good," I replied. "Neither did I." A moment passed, then another. "You embarrassed me," she said finally. I nodded. "You hurt me." She blinked. That wasn't the intention, but it was the outcome. Her shoulders tightened, but she said nothing. "I don't need you to approve of my parenting," I continued. "I don't need you to like how I run my home, but I do expect you to respect it. You make it sound like I've been cruel." I didn't reply right away. Then I said, "It's not always about being cruel. Sometimes it's about being dismissive, passive, distant. Those things hurt just as much." She swallowed hard. "I've always thought, if I could just make things easier, cleaner." She shook her head. "I didn't want the chaos, the noise, the unpredictability." "You mean my kids being kids?" She didn't answer, but the silence said enough. I looked at her, calm but unwavering. "They're not wild. They're not broken. They're not yours to filter. They are loved, loudly, and that's something you never learn to tolerate." Finally, she looked at me, really looked. And what I saw in her eyes wasn't rage or control. It was fear. Fear that I'd finally learned to live without needing her approval. Fear that I was never coming back to the role she'd written for me. I can't promise I'll change overnight, she said softly. I'm not asking for overnight, just honesty. She nodded slowly. Then I'm sorry. For overstepping. For assuming. For not seeing what was in front of me. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was enough. For now. That night, Zoe asked if we were still going on vacation. Not the cruise, I said, but something better. She tilted her head. Better how? Better because we'd choose it together. 2 days after that awkward, cautious conversation at the park, I started to believe something had shifted. Not dramatically, but like a heavy door slowly creaking open. Lydia hadn't called or texted since. That in itself felt like a miracle. My dad came by just once to drop off a book. Zoe had left at their place months ago. He didn't stay long, but his eyes were softer, and his goodbye had a weight I hadn't felt in years. The kind that said, I see you now. I just didn't know how before. I didn't need a parade or a handwritten apology. I just needed that. Olivia hadn't said much since Ava's visit. But then, quietly, she did something I never expected. She texted me a screenshot. It was an email, sent weeks ago, from Lydia. Subject line, cruise adjustments. It was short. 2 sentences. I've decided it's best for Liam and Ava to join the cruise instead. Maya's kids are too unruly, and I won't have the trip ruined. Please confirm ASAP. Sent only to Olivia. Not my dad. Not me. Just Olivia. Underneath the screenshot, Olivia had typed a single line. Olivia? I didn't know what to do. I'm sorry. I sat in silence for a long time. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't. And that was the hardest part, that none of it shocked me anymore. That night, after the kids fell asleep, I found myself scrolling through old photos. Vacations, birthdays, holidays. Most of them taken by me, planned by me, paid for by me. Lydia was in all of them, always centered, always smiling. I realized I wasn't even in half of them. I was behind the lens, making sure everyone else looked like a family. And that's when the thought hit me heavy, slow, inescapable. I was never part of the picture. I was just the one holding the frame. The next day, Ava showed up again, this time with Liam. They didn't say much at first, just sat at the kitchen table while I made grilled cheese. Then Liam spoke up, voice careful, like he wasn't sure he was allowed. Did you really cancel the whole cruise? I nodded. Sure did. He paused. That was kind of badass. I smiled. Thanks. Ava laughed into her lemonade. Then she got serious again. Mom's been weird lately. Like, quieter. I think she's scared of Grandma. She probably always was, I said. She just hid it better. Ava nodded like she already knew. Then she looked at me and asked something that stopped me cold. Why did you let her treat you like that for so long? I didn't answer right away. Because the real answer wasn't simple. It was layered. Because I thought it was easier. Because I didn't want to be the problem. Because every time I said something, I was told I was too sensitive. Because being silent kept the peace, or so I thought. But I knew that wasn't enough. So I told her the truth. Because I thought if I kept giving more, one day she'd give something back. Respect. Kindness. Just. Anything real. Ava nodded again, eyes fixed on her sandwich. Did it work? She asked. I smiled sadly. No. Later that evening, I was loading the dishwasher when my dad called. I think you should come over, he said. Just for a bit. Why? There's something you need to hear, and it's better if you hear it from her. I hesitated. Everything inside me said not to go. But then again, part of me wondered if this was the moment. The truth moment. So I said yes. When I arrived at their house, it felt weird being back. Not because it was unfamiliar, but because I was different. I didn't feel like the outsider trying to be accepted anymore. I felt like someone who knew exactly where she stood, even if it meant standing alone. Lydia was sitting at the dining table when I walked in. She looked up, eyes tired, face unreadable. Maya, she said quietly. Lydia. She gestured to the chair across from her. I sat. My dad stood off to the side, arms crossed. Neutral as always, but listening. I didn't mean for things to get this far, she began. I didn't say anything, but I've been thinking about what you said, and about Ava. And I think I owe you more than just an apology. I raised an eyebrow. That was new. She took a breath. I've been holding on to something something I never shared. Not with you. Not even with your father. I narrowed my eyes. What are you talking about? She swallowed hard, hands clenched in her lap. I didn't grow up in a warm home, she said. My parents weren't affectionate. My mother was cold. My father expected perfection. I learned early that being quiet, neat, controlled, that was how you survived. My breath caught. She kept going. When I married your father, I was determined to create something better. But when I met your kids, when I saw the chaos, the joy, I didn't know what to do with it. It scared me. She looked at me, eyes shining now. They reminded me of everything I wasn't allowed to be. And instead of embracing it, I tried to erase it. I stared at her. For the first time, I saw something real behind her polished facade. I didn't know how to love them the way they needed, she whispered. But that doesn't mean I had the right to take anything from them, or from you. A long silence stretched between us. Then she added, quietly, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just want you to know I see it now. And I'm sorry. I stood slowly. My legs felt heavy, but my mind was clear. I appreciate you saying that, I said, voice calm. But this doesn't fix everything. I know. And there are still consequences. She nodded. I'm not asking for anything more. I turned to leave, then paused. Next time you want to be part of this family, you'll have to show up for real. And then I walked out. That night, Zoe asked if she could invite Ava over for movie night. Of course, I said. Make it a girls' night. She grinned and ran off to text her. And as I cleaned up the living room, I realized something. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about reclaiming something I didn't even know I'd lost. Voice, thought, value, peace. The days after Lydia's apology passed in a strange stillness. Not the tense kind we used to live in where people held their breath and walked on eggshells. This was something else. Something I didn't recognize at first. It was the sound of boundaries being respected. And honestly, it was eerie. No surprise visits. No guilt texts. No late-night calls hinting at family obligations that somehow always meant I had to give more. Even Olivia stayed quiet. It felt like everyone was waiting to see what I would do next. But for the first time in my life, I didn't rush to fill the silence. I let it settle. I let me settle. I spent the weekend doing nothing extraordinary. Zoe made pancakes shaped like lizards. Caleb turned the laundry basket into a spaceship again. We watched a documentary about deep-sea creatures and then spent an hour pretending to be jellyfish in the living room. It was chaotic, messy, loud, beautiful, and no part of me wanted to change a thing. By Monday, something had shifted. Not just in them, in me. I didn't realize it until I found myself sitting at the dining table, laptop open, researching vacation rentals not for Lydia, not for some big family bonding trip, but for us, just me and the kids. Somewhere warm, quiet, with water that didn't carry cruise ship drama. I booked a small beachfront cabin in Oregon. A week just for the three of us. A new tradition. One I didn't need permission for. I didn't announce it. Didn't send out a family update. It wasn't about making a point. It was about making a life. That evening, my phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. Olivia, she's selling the cruise jewelry. I blinked. What jewelry? Olivia, you know. The custom set she ordered for the formal dinner. She had it made right after the switch. Said she wanted to look like someone who belonged in first class. Cost her $4,000. I stared at the screen, then I laughed. Not cruelly, not even bitterly. Just one of those quiet, dry laughs that say, of course she did. All that effort, all that cost. To sit at a table she never earned. And now she was pawning it off. I didn't respond right away. But later, Olivia messaged again. Olivia, you were right. About everything. I just couldn't see it before. Me. Sometimes we need things to fall apart loud enough that we can't ignore the pieces. Olivia, she's still trying to control the story. Telling people you overreacted, but she forgave you anyway. I sighed. Of course. It wasn't about the truth. It was about appearances. But something in me didn't flinch this time. Let her spin it however she wants. I don't owe her the narrative. The next day, my dad stopped by again. He didn't ask to come in. Just handed me a manila envelope. What's this? Something overdue, he said quietly. I opened it. Inside was a printed letter, signed and dated. It was from him, a personal statement. It outlined that the cruise was funded solely by me, that the switch was made without my knowledge or consent, that I had every right to cancel it, that Lydia acted alone. And at the bottom, in neat pen, he wrote, "Maya, the first see you now, and I'm sorry it took so long." I didn't cry. I didn't hug him. I just nodded. And that was enough for both of us. Later that evening, I sat on the porch with a mug of tea while the kids built a fort out of couch cushions and old sheets. The sky was that dusky pink, the kind that makes everything feel a little softer. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app, typed one line. Closure isn't about revenge, it's about release. I didn't post it anywhere, didn't send it. It was just for me, because this wasn't about winning anymore. It was about being done. A few days later, just before our Oregon trip, Lydia reached out again. This time, the tone was different. Not defensive, not manipulative, just simple. "Lydia, I know I can't undo what happened, but if there's ever a path forward, I'm open to walking it, on your terms." I stared at the message, didn't rush to respond. Instead, I walked into the living room, kissed Zoe on the forehead, and asked Caleb to help me pick which bathing suits to pack. "That night?" I replied. I appreciate that. But right now, my focus is on building something with my kids. If a path opens up later, you'll know. Oregon was everything we needed. Morning walks on the beach, shells in our pockets, laughter echoing off rocks, sand in our sandwiches, Caleb's first sunburn, Zoe's first seashell collection. We didn't talk about the cruise. We didn't need to. We were too busy living the life we chose. No strings, no shadows, no step-family guilt, just us, present, whole, free. The day we came back, I found a small package at my door. No note, no return address. Inside was a tiny silver anchor pendant. Simple, unassuming, tucked in a velvet box. I didn't need a card to know who sent it. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't closure. But it was something. And that was enough. I placed the necklace on my nightstand and went to tuck in the kids. Zoe was already half asleep, her arm draped across her stuffed turtle. Caleb peeked up from under the covers. "Mom?" "Yeah, bud. I'm glad we didn't go on that boat." "Yeah?" I asked, smiling softly. He nodded. "You didn't look happy back then. You do now." And just like that, he drifted off. I stood in their doorway for a long time, thinking about everything. The cruise, the chaos, the anger, the hurt, but also the healing, the clarity, the space I finally made for myself. People say revenge is sweet, but peace? Peace is something else. It's quiet, unshakable, full of breath, and it never demands applause. We never talked about the cruise again. Not in my house, not at holidays, not even when Olivia came over with a bottle of wine and an exhausted apology that she didn't know how to say last year. We just lived. My dad visits more. He stays longer, brings puzzles and books instead of guilt and silence. Ava calls me for advice sometimes. So does Olivia. Lydia sends polite cards now, nothing more. And I'm okay with that. Boundaries are funny like that. They don't keep people out. They show you who wants to come in the right way. Last week, Zoe found that little silver anchor in my jewelry box. She asked where it came from. I told her it was a reminder. Of what? I smiled. That even in the storm, we get to choose where we drop anchor. She nodded, thoughtful, then ran off to be a pirate in the backyard. And I sat on the porch again, barefoot, warm tea in my hands, watching her spin in circles with her brother under a fading sun. Finally anchored. Finally home. Story 2, thank you for being here. Don't come. On Christmas, my father texted me. Living with my sister, I've been paying for all of the bills, food, and rent. That evening, I was just squatting, she informed them. I remained silent. However, her key did not fit the following morning, and 2 gift-wrapped boxes waited silently, one of which was still in motion. Thank you for being here. Don't come. My dad sent me the note on Christmas Eve. No welcome, no explanation. 6 dry words, that's all. Similar to a last rejection stamp. I folded my knees and sat on my room's floor, blinking at the screen as though if I looked at it long enough, the message might change to something more positive. It didn't. Every one of them was present. My sister and dad are enjoying the holiday together as a joyful, whole family. And once more, I was the one excluded. I have spent the past year and a half covering everything. Pay the rent, food, utilities. Alina, my sister, had lost her job, or so she said, and I paid all of the bills in silence and without protest while she worked things out. Because, after all, that's what families do. She didn't say much that evening before heading to our parents' house for Christmas dinner. She halted at the door, threw her coat over her shoulder, and gave her hair a final fluff in the mirror. "Oh, just in case they inquire, you're just kind of sitting here," I informed them. "Since your name isn't on the lease, you know." She wasn't kidding when she said that. She spoke it as if it were true. Looking up from the dishes, I did so. My hands froze in the soapy water as I was working. "What did you tell them?" She gave an eye roll. "Calm down. It's not really important." All I wanted was for them not to think, "You can live here for free," or whatever. This is just more convenient. However, I'm covering the rent. I spoke in a flat, calm voice. "Yes, well, that's not necessary for them to know." She went before I could answer. I didn't send an SMS. I did not make a call. I didn't make an effort to clarify. Rather, I pondered how many more years I would continue to do this while sitting at the kitchen table and gazing at the inexpensive string lights I had installed weeks before. Continue to cover the costs for those who have already determined that I don't belong. I made up my mind by midnight. I got up, changed the locks, took out the tools, and opened the closet in the corridor. No reluctance, no shame. The place seemed lighter as I went to bed. Keep quiet, secure, mine. For the first time, perhaps. Around 8:17 a.m. the next morning, I heard keys fumbling at the door. A curse, a click. One more click. Nothing. The beating, the banging, then the hush. I left her something, but I didn't open the door. On the welcome mat are 2 gift-wrapped parcels. One had a lovely ribbon attached to it and was medium in size. The smaller one was still in motion. Small food came first, followed by rent and her college loans, which she promised to repay in full as quickly as possible. And I didn't challenge her when she was dismissed again. I simply intervened. I worked more hours. My old laptop was sold. I stopped dating, traveling, and engaging in hobbies. I told myself this was only a short-term situation, that the role of good brothers was to keep my sister aloft. However, temporary turned into regular, and routine turned into a never-ending commitment. Became quiet, because if someone allows you to pay their expenses, what exactly do you say to them? Then you inform your parents that you're living in your flat in a squat? I ought to have anticipated it. Words had always come naturally to Elena. She was skilled at manipulating events such that I was the aggressor and she was the victim. She sobbed her way out of everything as a child. She sobbed her way into everyone's pocketbook as an adult, even our parents, particularly our parents. She was the creative spirit to them, a bit disorganized. Mom used to giggle when she said that. She has good intentions, though. In the meanwhile, I was too chilly, too domineering, and too serious. But when love comes with restrictions, you end yourself frigid. Months ago, I stopped attending family gatherings. I couldn't keep up the pretense, not because I didn't want to see them. Every discussion devolved into a guilt trip about money. The stable one is you. She's having trouble. She has a gentle spirit, you know. Why are you so hard all the time? The reality. I was worn out. I'm sick of having to pay for everything. Fed up with being the only grown-up in the room. I'm sick of waking up in a paid flat every day. I was a burden, to put it simply. However, 3 weeks before to Christmas, something snapped inside of me. In the living room, we were seated. I had just picked up takeout for the 2 of us after finishing a 12-hour workday. The bag was set on the table by me. Elena remained glued to her phone. "Could you send me a Venmo?" "Casually," she said. Regarding my portion of the takeaway, I blinked. "Do you mean the takeaway I paid for with my card? You haven't made your rent payment in 3 months." Thumbs still fluttering across her screen, she shrugged. "Yes, but you made that decision. You weren't asked. All year long you've been asking me?" "Yeah," she answered, looking up at last. "Well, you weren't coerced." Then it dawned on me. She never experienced guilt. Not once. She wasn't desperate enough to use me. I allowed her to take advantage of me. I saw the credit card bill a week later, but it wasn't my purse, or what should have been hers. The sole issue. My name was on the statement. I took a seat on my bed's edge, gazing at the balance, heart racing. At Sephora, $438.72 was spent. Apple, Zara, a resort with spa services, a deposit for a tattoo. I gave the business a call. They used my email address and social security number to verify that the account was open. My identity had been stolen by her. I didn't even go straight to her. I simply became silent and watched. Followed. Captured screenshots. Watch her walk around the apartment wearing an Apple Watch and new boots, chatting about my dumb brother while laughing on FaceTime with her pals. As if I weren't 5 feet distant. I was going to hold off on saying anything until the new year. February, perhaps. Allow it to develop and sting. Then Christmas arrived. And my father's message. Thank you for being here. Don't come. Elena smirked as she sipped her wine that evening. When you behave like a tenant, you really can't expect them to consider you family. You're not welcome. I therefore changed the locks. Since I'm not mean, I left her the presents I had initially purchased for her. I also added another. The second box contained a flash drive containing audio files and a copy of the credit card statement with her name written in red marker. I had recorded her boasting to her friends, one in which she laughed. He truly deserves it. He functions similarly to an overdraft-free bank. Why wouldn't I exploit it? The phone I had concealed inside mine, vibrating and buzzing continuously from a set alarm, caused the box to tremble a little. I wanted her to experience the same emotions I had throughout the year. Perplexed, rattled, shaken. I was in the kitchen reheating leftovers when the banging started. Not knocking. Banging like someone wanted to break the door in. It didn't surprise me. What surprised me was how calm I felt. I opened the door slowly. There she was. Elena. Here, a mess. Eyeliner smudged rage written across her face. What is this? She screamed, holding up the still-moving silver box like it was a bomb. I tilted my head. A Christmas present. It was vibrating, I know. Did you open it? Her mouth opened and shut. You should, I said, stepping aside. Come in, since you don't have keys anymore. She stormed in, dropping the box on the coffee table. The ribbon was half untied. She yanked the lid off and stared. Quiet. Inside, perfectly arranged, were a stack of printed screenshots from her text conversations, where she called me a freeloader and just a walking paycheck. A flash drive labeled for Dad. Play this if you still have a spine, and a sticky note folded neatly with only one line. Your lease is up, emotionally and otherwise. She turned to me, eyes wild. You're heartless. No, I said. Just done right then, my phone exploded. A call from Dad. I answered it on speaker. Son, what is going on? Your sister just showed us what you left her. That was cruel. What happened to family? I let out a quick laugh. You mean the family that warned me not to come to Christmas? That wasn't about you, he snapped. You've been aloof, you withdraw from others. You. I was instructed not to come by you, I interrupted. And you know what? I paid attention. I was holding the phone when Elena grabbed it. He's gone totally crazy, Dad. He replaced the locks. Is he pursuing me? It was his plan. Oh, please. Regaining the phone, I said, tell him what's actually in that box, please. A pause occurred. Dad. With a firm voice, I went on. Do you know who has been opening credit accounts under my name? Are you aware of who is owed $6,438 under my name? Quiet. Then Dad said something. Is that accurate? No, Elena yelled. That's something he made up. He is attempting to attract attention. She. Therefore, why is her email address linked to an account that has my SSN on Capital One? I questioned why my name was on the receipts from the stores she frequented. No response. The finest part, though, I proceeded to the shelf and took out a tiny black speaker. Is this? I hit the play button. Her voice was as clear as day as it filled the room. It's so simple to control him. He is constantly feeling bad. He will still cover my phone bill even if I set the flat on fire. The color left her face. That's not relevant. Really? I furrowed my brow. What circumstances make him deserving of suffering? Dad said nothing. She was, too. The world was the same. And then there was a knock. A gentle, surprising one. I pulled the door open. Mom was the one. And Mike behind her, Elena's former partner. "Who are you?" Elena got going. Mike said, "I need to talk to you." "You too." He was trembling as he said. Not out of terror, though, from rage. He looked straight at me and said, "I just discovered that someone has been using my name to order iPhones last month. A hotel reservation made in my name. Today, they gave me a call to collect money." He looked at Elena. "Did you do it?" She parted her lips. "I closed it. Have you opened it once more?" Why would I act in such way? The item on the coffee table caught his attention. The speaker was still blazing red. The flash drive was still there, and screenshots were printed. He said, "I think you should go." "What comes next?" She lost her temper. Mike said, "I'm staying here," and entered. I tightened my jaw. "What are you trying to say?" He looked at me and replied, "I mean, please allow me to collapse for a few days. Perhaps it's time for us to cease playing her game since I believe the same individual has played both of us." Elena blinked as though she had been struck. "Are you on his side? I will no longer support liars." For the first time in her life, she stood still. No phony tears, no script, no one to control, nothing but quiet. I tossed her coat from the chair and reassured her. "Your belongings are located next to the trash can in the hallway. You can guess which one it is." She went out. No more dangers. No more feelings of guilt. Only the sound of the elevator closing and footsteps down the hall. Elena left the following morning. There was no longer a void in the quiet of my apartment. It was merited. The steam rose in lazy spirals as I stood in the kitchen with a mug of reheated coffee. I thought I might experience regret or guilt, but I didn't. My chest doesn't hurt. Don't second-guess yourself. Just tranquility. Mike remained on the couch, snoring quietly beneath a blanket. The previous evening, I threw him out. After Elena left, he had remained silent, simply nodded, muttered at last, and fainted. However, he raised an eyebrow when he woke up and noticed the laptop open on the table. "Are you already employed?" He rubbed his face and said, "I'm getting my money back." "What? As in pressing charges?" "More than that." I swiveled the screen in his direction. "This will become official. The claim is the first step." The night Elena left, I had already started gathering evidence. I had actual files of data, including images of my bank account history, IP login logs, credit card bills, and even receipts for each and every purchase she had made in my name. I initiated files with all of the impacted financial institutions and formally reported identity theft to the police. First to reply was Capital One. They initiated a thorough fraud investigation after flagging the account. By Friday, a confirmation email buzzed through my phone. "Your whole refund has been authorized. $6,438. 72 has been returned to my account." For the first time in days, I sat back in my chair and let out a breath, but I wasn't finished. The second step is the computation. I started entering 18 months' worth of rent payments for 2 individuals into a spreadsheet. $950 per month, $180 for utilities, average groceries for $100 for random emergencies, $100 to $500, sometimes more. I continued to browse endlessly. By the time I neared the bottom of the sheet, my stomach turned $17,892, not considering mental harm, not including the times I missed meals or did multiple shifts simply to remain ahead. I grabbed screenshots, stored them to a flash drive, and called a lawyer. Step 3, the outfit. She used my credit, but that's not the only reason I'm here. I want restitution, I told the lawyer. For more than a year, she was dependent on me, and my parents supported it. He wore pricey shoes, was a bright man, and grinned as if he had already won. "Have you have evidence?" he inquired. On his desk, I slid the flash drive. After plugging it in and clicking, he looked at it and his eyes widened. "You kept a record of everything. Each and every dime. What about the parents? Without my knowledge, they added my name to utility accounts? I located the contracts." He whistled softly. "Identity theft is not all of this. Long-term financial exploitation is what this is. Do we have a case then? Oh, he leaned back and replied, ours is a highly visible one. Get ready for the blast. On a soggy Wednesday afternoon 3 weeks later, 3 certified letters arrived at my parents' house, one each for Mom, Dad, and Elena, all from Keller's legal office, and more. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. ID of the caller? Mom, I said. What are you doing? She lost her temper. You too have a good morning. Are you suing us? Following everything that we have done for you. Done to me, I said. Don't twist it. Your family is us. In addition, you co-signed 2 utility bills and, without my permission, added me to a third. That is deception. All it was paperwork. Theft was committed. This is being exaggerated by you. I was instructed not to attend Christmas. There was silence on the line. Then she lowered an octave in her voice. You were reared by us. When you need us, we let you stay here. Everything was paid for by me. I wasn't going to remain. I was assisting. There is a distinction. The ally is step 5. My grandma gave me a call 3 days later. It had been months since I last heard from her, since Elena informed me, no, Nana has had enough of your drama. Don't give her another call. Her voice was forceful now, though. She claimed to have seen the bank statement and the lawsuit. My heart fell. Did you witness the bond? She let out a sigh. Your father took more than $9,000 out of a savings bond that was made in your name. He paid off Lena's old automobile with it. I took a firm seat. You were unaware? She inquired. I was unaware of the link. There isn't any more, she said. I relocated the account and frozen what was left. Once more, it's yours, where it ought to have been. I was at a loss for words. She then included everything of my written will as well. When the time comes, my house will be given to you. I'm confident you'll handle it properly. I blinked. Nana, why? She said that you are the only one who has never made a request. The only person who maintained receipts was you, the courtroom. Elena appeared as though she was trying to win people over with her beige outfit. Mom was dressed in black. Dad avoided looking at her. My attorney explained everything. Statements on page after page, text messages and audio recordings, fraud in banks, power of attorney, misuses, false reports. Savings, breaches of bonds. Elena attempted to weep, early onset confusion, according to Mom. Dad simply seemed worn out. The judge, however, the magistrate wasn't worn out. Did you really put your son's name on financial records without his permission? She questioned my mom. It was family after all, ma'am. Is it true or false? Keep quiet. At last, she muttered, yes. The decision was made swiftly. $13,000 is being reimbursed. All false debts have been paid off. Court expenses are paid. Additionally, they have a formal warning on file. The scene after the credits. I received a letter 2 weeks later, written by hand, no address for return, Elena's compositions. I recognized it right away. Are you content now? You got your message across. There was a photograph inside, folded in half. Hers and mine, children seated beneath a Christmas tree. I examined our faces. She was holding on to me tightly, as if I were her sole source of equilibrium. I reached for a rear pin. I typed a single line. You release first. I then set the picture on fire. The sound of quiet after earning it is amusing. 3 months following the court's decision. My parents hadn't gotten back to me yet. No calls, no texts, not even a card for your birthday. And what do you know? Excellent. I didn't have to justify myself anymore. No more demonstrating that I wasn't a letdown. You ought to be aware of how difficult your sister's life is. Not anymore. The stable one is you. You are necessary to us. At last, my life was mine. The same flat was where I stayed. However, it truly felt like mine for the first time. The type of establishment where everything in the refrigerator is yours when you open it. Not to someone who secretly dubbed you a squatter, when there is still a lack of tension in the air. Where no one leaves passive-aggressive messages about items they didn't pay for, clogs the sink, or hijacks the Wi-Fi. The couch, the walls, and the window view were all the same. However, the quiet, that had never been done before. The tranquility, not familiar. Keep quiet, strong. People occasionally inquire about the pricing. Wasn't it challenging? Isn't cutting off your entire family cruel? And I always give the same response. It was essential. I shrank for years to make myself more comfortable for them, grinning despite insults. Instead of establishing limits, write checks, they offered me nothing but guilt, and I allowed them to accuse me of being selfish for not giving them everything. How long I allowed that to happen was the true cruelty. I realized the reality when I eventually stopped pretending to be the dutiful son and the giving brother. I wasn't missed by them. What did they miss? I conveyed the message to them. I received a message from a name I didn't know when I checked my inbox one May afternoon. The heading: "Your sister's condition is not good." It came from Tessa, a lady. It seems to be an old buddy of Elena's. It was a brief message. Chilly. She's sitting on couches. She lost her job once more. Claims that you destroyed her life. I assumed you would be curious. After a lengthy moment of staring at the computer, I clicked erase. Care isn't the same as turning back, nor because I didn't care. The final meeting. My dad and I met up at a petrol station one day. Our gazes met on the other side of the pump. He appeared smaller and older, as if he had finally ran out of reasons to justify his actions. He came softly, with a peculiar kind of guilt rather than rage. He remarked, "You look good." I gave a nod. He glanced at the floor. "Your mother is still upset, you know that." I said nothing. "You ruined Christmas," she says. I arched an eyebrow. "That's amusing," she began by saying. "Don't come." I simply listened. He let out a sigh. "Son, family quarrels." "No," I said. "Families defend one another. You stood up for Elena. You didn't stand up for me." He had nothing to say about that. "You just waited for me to open the door for him to return." I didn't. After I got into my car and drove off, I felt at peace. This was not retaliation. This was liberty. Let me clarify. This has nothing to do with revenge. There was no intention of penalizing anyone. This had nothing to do with establishing my correctness, although I was. It was time to let go, abandoning a system in which love was a transaction, releasing the guilt that I never had to bear, letting go of the self that pleaded to be heard or seen, appreciated. I had no intention of ruining my family. I just quit ruining myself for their sake. Elena is liked by others. Those who accuse, distort, and take. Others continue to absorb the hit, which is how they live. When I stopped absorbing, the entire mechanism broke down. It was because I left, not because I broke it. And the first actual soul for the first time, I felt alive for a long time. The surprising conclusion. I received a box 2 weeks ago. No address for return. There was a plain envelope inside, as well as within the envelope. Just one picture. Ellie, Elena's daughter from years ago, and I were there. Perhaps 4 years old, she sat on my shoulders, giggling, holding my face with her small hands, and writing in a wobbly, strange style on the reverse of the picture. "I apologize for my mother's treatment of you. Ellie, thank you for everything." I gazed at the text till it became hazy. How she obtained my address is still a mystery to me. My granny, perhaps. Perhaps fate. However, just single note made it all worthwhile. I currently save the picture in my desk drawer. It reminds me, not because it connects me to the past. You don't stop loving when you go away. It indicates that you begin to love yourself more. And it's not retaliation. Freedom is that. Story 3, I remarked. "I'm so excited for the New Year's party that I paid for. You're actually staying at home. Your brother is moving into your flat with his children." Mom grinned. "All right." I changed my address, reversed the charges, and when he arrived with boxes, there was a folder with his name on it and a for sale sign on the yard. As I placed the invitation and event schedule on the kitchen table, I said, "I am so excited for the New Year's party. DJ seafood catering till 3 in the morning, a view from the roof. It will be different this year." Mom didn't even give me a glance. On the counter, she was chopping cheese. As calm as ever. "I wanted to discuss that with you," she added. "You're not leaving?" I went cold. "What?" She moved the cheese into a container and remarked, "We're going to the party. Your dad?" "Ryan and I." I gazed. "You're referring to the party I bought?" Without even glancing up from his newspaper, Dad added from the couch, "Yes, in theory, but Ryan truly needs this." Are you aware of his experiences? My brother was carrying his youngest in the doorway as I turned to face him. He didn't appear at all uneasy. It's been a nightmare with Kelly. Oh, he said, as if that clarified anything. The children never stop. It has been weeks since I had a vacation. You're replacing me then? I inquired. I used the money I made to pay for the celebration. Mom responded, You'll be doing something more important. You and the children will remain at home. Ryan needs some time off. Are you serious? We just need your assistance, she stated. No, I said. You're not inquiring. You made up your mind already. Ryan gave a shrug. Man, hurry up. It's only one evening. The children had a great time with you. Once, I chuckled. They do, of course. The only person who genuinely looks after them is myself. Dad warned you to watch your tone. You're still avoiding me, Mom continued. Oh, and one more thing. Ryan will be residing with you for some time. What? She said that after the divorce, he has been unable to pay his rent. As if it were clear, he and the lads will move into your flat. Just till the situation settles down, I gazed at her. Without asking, you chose to relocate him and his children into my home. Do you live alone? Flatly, Dad said. There's space. I had a look around. Does Mom continue to shop? Dad continues to read. Ryan is now using the TV to browse the stations as if he were a resident. Before I even entered, they had already made up their minds. All right. Silently, I said. Go enjoy yourself. Mom gave me a quick look. Really? Really? I remarked as I turned to go to my room. I closed the door behind myself. They assumed I was pouting. No, I wasn't. I was considering ways to ensure that they would never again take advantage of me in this manner. That evening, I returned to my flat and sat there in the dark. That much was clear. They had already decided. It was no longer my party. Apparently, neither my money nor my apartment belonged to me anymore. However, this wasn't novel. For months, this had been developing. Following the divorce, Ryan returned to live with our parents. He began by saying it was only temporary, until I find somewhere else. That was 5 months ago, he informed me. Since then, the topic of difficulty has come up every other conversation. The way Kelly abandoned him, how the mounting legal expenditures were being handled, how challenging being a single father was. I paid attention. I was helpful. I even handed him cash. Little things at beginning. Can you cover the kids' school shoes this month? Do you mind grabbing diapers while you're out? Hey man, can I borrow $100 to fix the stroller? And of course, I always said yes. I told myself it was short term. I told myself I was doing the right thing, but then the assets got bigger. One week it was $300, just to catch up on a bill. The next step was food, then petrol money. Then Christmas presents for the kids, because Kelly's being tough. I didn't keep count at first. I should have, but by mid-December, I'd already sent over $1,000, and not once did he say thank you. Hey, Ryan remarked one day while we were in the vehicle. Are you still living alone? Yes, I said slowly. Good. That second room is at your apartment, correct? Although I agreed, there was something in his tone that made my stomach turn. He smiled. If I moved in with you, it would be much simpler. You don't even use that room. I don't intend to offend. It simply sits there. Are you serious? What? It makes sense. I already feel as though I will always be staying at my mom's house. It's becoming strange. You have room, no girlfriend, no children. I didn't respond. Mom called later that night. We have been considering. She mentioned that having Ryan and the boys remain with you after New Year's would be really beneficial. What? It's temporary, she said hastily. Only until he works it out. Your home is tranquil and he needs a new beginning. It will benefit the guys. Have you discussed this with Ryan? All of us did. That was very typical, she said. He's thrilled. The children adore you, he adds. That's fantastic. Since I haven't agreed to anything, I mumbled. She hesitated a moment. Next, this isn't about you. He's having trouble. I had heard that sentence all year. It was every time I attempted to push back. Avoid becoming self-centered. It was every dollar I donated. You have no children. You can afford it. Every holiday, every favor, babysitting every weekend. It was only a small amount of assistance. They referred to it as family. However, I was beginning to see what it was. One way. And I was the one who gave all the time. Ryan emailed me a photo of bunk beds the next morning. Do you think this arrangement would work in the spare space? No. Can we have a conversation? No. Do you think this is acceptable? Only a guess. I spent a lot of time staring at my phone. After that, I accessed my banking app and examined the transfers, money, gift cards, birthday presents, pizza evenings, school excursions, and utilities. I just made this one payment. I mentally added it up. I tightened my jaw. Since August, over $2,000 has been lost. He now want my privacy as well. Something solid sank into my chest. Nobody ever inquired about my well-being. What I was giving up was of no concern to anyone. All they wanted was more. That night, I didn't get any sleep. I was lying in bed, wide open eyes. Everything I should have said was flying through my head. All the things I should have done sooner. Until around 3 a.m, I gave up on my thoughts. I was the first to begin. I took out my laptop and canceled all of the reservations. The venue on the roof, the seafood catering and the DJ, the order for champagne. After that, I phoned my bank and canceled all of the charges I had made for the party on New Year's Eve. Every cancellation was like a rope being cut. I then clicked on a different page and put my condo up for sale. The 2nd of January arrived. I felt sharper than ever, even though the sky was dismal and the air was frigid. I had already relocated across town to a short-term apartment. Just a clear, peaceful mind. Nothing fancy. All I did was pack 2 bags and leave the rest behind. No texts, no calls. Simply disappeared. But not before abandoning something. There was a huge, hefty folder with Ryan Grant scrawled across the top in red marker. A large envelope fastened to the front door, and a bright red and white for sale sign hammered deep into the frozen turf in the front yard of my previous residence. 3:27 p.m., my phone sprang to life. Ryan is en route. Children are thrilled. Packed everything we owned. I didn't respond. A few blocks away, I sat in a cafe, observing everything through a live security feed that I had set up a week prior. Just in case. He arrived in the minivan 15 minutes later. Toys in a plastic storage bin in the truck, kids in the back seat boxes. As if he had just arrived at Disneyland, he parked, got out, stretched, and grinned. Then he stopped. The sign caught his attention. He gazed at the bold letters for sale as he stood there. The grin vanished. He ascended the stairs. The door remained closed. Someone had changed the lock. He then noticed the folder. After tearing it off the door, he opened it and began looking through its contents. The show really started at that point. Within the folder, page 1, a printed screen grab of the venue reservation cancellation. Email confirmation on page 2 that the catering had been reimbursed included the line that the client had asked for a complete reversal because of fraudulent family interference. Page 3. A spreadsheet showing all of the money I had given Ryan for groceries, rent, school fees, and children's clothing during the previous 12 months. At the bottom, it was totaled, dated, and itemized. $3, $845.77, not compensated, not acknowledged, not valued. Page 4. A letter addressed to him. Ryan, you assumed too much for too long. You thought I'd always say yes. You thought I had nothing better to do than sacrifice my time, money, and life for your mess? You were wrong. This is not your home. This is not your backup plan. This is not your fresh start. The only thing waiting for you here is the realization that the free ride is over. Happy New Year! Page 5, a printed photo. A screenshot from his call with a friend where he joked, "My brother's a failure, but he owes mom, so it works out." Page 6. Copy of the realtor agreement. Page 7. Notice of listing. Page 8. Change of address confirmation. Page 9. Utility transfer form. Page 10. Blank eviction form. Just for show. He stood there, flipping through every page, his face slowly turning red, then white. "Daddy, can we go iron?" One of his sons shouted from the back seat. He didn't answer. He just stood there holding the folder like it had just detonated in his hands. Minutes later, Mom and Dad pulled up. They stepped out of the car, clearly expecting to help Ryan move in. Mom stopped in her tracks when she saw the sign. "Is this a joke?" she asked. Ryan handed her the folder silent. She flipped through a few pages. Her face dropped as she got to the spreadsheet. Then the letter, then the screenshot of his failure comment that said, nothing. He just sighed, deep and heavy. Mom turned to Ryan, her voice sharp. Did you really say that? It was a joke, Ryan muttered. Dad looked at the house, then the sign, then the kids still waiting in the car. He's gone, he said quietly. Mom's phone buzzed. She opened it. It was a group message from me. Send it. All 3 of them. Don't contact me. Not about the apartment, not about babysitting, not about money. You made your choices. I've made mine. I'm done. That night, I didn't go to a party. I didn't open champagne. I didn't count down. I didn't celebrate the way I imagined I would, but I did something better. I sat on the floor of my new place. Keep quiet. Alone. I made a frozen pizza. Watched a ridiculous action movie and slept like a rock. Because for the first time in my life, I didn't know anyone anything. And no one was coming through my door with boxes ever again. For the first 24 hours, it was quiet. I kept my phone off. Didn't check email, didn't open social media. I thought maybe they received the message. Maybe the folder spoke enough. But of course not. My quiet was shattered on the evening of January 3. I saw the missed calls while I was on my way back from the grocery store. Ryan gave Mom 6, Dad gave her 2, and an unidentified number gave her 1. I switched the phone off once more. What they had to say was not anything I wanted to read. I was aware beforehand. They arrived in person that evening. The knock was the first. I instantly regretted it as I unlocked the door of my new rental apartment. Mom was the one. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her eyeliner was smudged, and her coat button was off, giving the impression that she had hurriedly dressed. Ryan was standing with his arms folded behind her, while Dad was silently hovering a few steps back. We must speak, she said. No, we don't. After responding, I began to shut the door. She used her hand to push back. You caught us off guard? No, I responded coolly. I took precautions. There is a distinction. Your family was humiliated by you. She lost her temper. That wasn't fair to Ryan. I chuckled. Oh, he was not worthy of receiving a written list of all the things I had done for him. For once, he didn't deserve to be honest. Ryan took a step forward. He spoke louder. You caught me off guard. You had the opportunity to speak to me like a man. You mean that you called me a failure when you spoke to your friend on the phone? Who was Mom? I said that. He flushed. It was a joke. There was a pattern. I fired back. I was used by you for a year. Most likely longer. At last, I declined. You're not fond of that? That was the first to speak. You didn't have to exaggerate anything. The folder, the flat, and the party. I told you that the folder was the only thing that got your attention. I was about to destroy the bridge before you stopped. Mom gave me the tense, irate smile she had just about to give me. I feel guilty. Your family is us. I'm not your servant either. I lost my temper. You have no right to come here and act as though I have to give you an explanation. I don't. She took a long breath and moved away from me, even though it seemed like she was about to hit me. This is something you'll regret. You'll realize how self-centered you were when you look back. No, I responded, returning inside. When you look back, you'll see that the only thing that kept this mess together was you. For the following few days, I shut the door. I anticipated more, but they only appeared in various forms: texts, emails, guilt trips, and a few others. All we want to discuss is voicemails. Ryan even attempted to use a card to invite the children over. Uncle, you are missed. I didn't respond. Instead, I began therapy. I started taking care of my money. I disconnected my old credit card, created a second account, and changed all of the passwords. I needed time, I informed my employer. Without asking any questions, she granted me a week off. And I did nothing for anyone else for a change. The twist then appeared. I received a call from an unknown number a week after the explosion. I wouldn't normally answer, but I felt compelled to do so. Hi there. A pause followed by a quiet voice. Is this Michael? Indeed. Karen is my name. My name is Sister Kelly. I felt sick to my stomach. Kelly Ryan's former partner, the children's mother. She said softly, I hope this isn't a bad time. I wanted to express my gratitude. For what purpose? For all that you did for Kelly and those children. Even for Ryan. despite the fact that he never valued it. I was at a loss for words, she went on. Kelly filled me in on everything, the party, the folder, the money, and the moving plants. She claimed that Ryan did all of that behind her back, and that she never wanted them to live with you. I went cold. What? She didn't know until the boys returned, sobbing, and told her they were no longer allowed to visit Uncle Michael's. She was enraged, claimed he had no authority. She wanted me to apologize for everything to you. Karen hesitated as I sat there silently, holding the phone. Ryan attempted to obtain a loan in your name. I'm not sure if you are aware of this. My blood is icy. What? Kelly located the documents. He made use of your information. She halted it, threatened to contact law enforcement. He gave in. However, it's probably a good idea to check your credit report. I remained silent. Karen went on, her voice trembling slightly. Sincerely, you should be done with them, and I know you are. However, I just wanted to express my gratitude for not turning into one of them. The line then stopped working. I spent a lot of time sitting. After that, I grabbed my credit report from my laptop. And sure enough, there it was. A hard inquiry from a loan company I'd never contacted. He tried. He actually tried. And that folder, it saved me from something much worse. They thought I was dramatic, overreacting, cruel. But the truth, I got out just in time. I always thought cutting someone off would feel like violence, like smashing a door, like shouting, like burning a bridge and watching the flames dance in the dark. But the truth, it felt like silence. Big, profound, unneeded quiet. It's been a month now since I closed the door on them. My family, the celebration, the guilt, the never-endless demands. I wake up in a different apartment. I walk different streets. I sip coffee alone. And no one asks me to pick up diapers on the way back. No one texts me about a speedy transfer. Just once. It's quiet, but not empty. The silence seems liberating for the first time in years. Really, I started going to therapy. I said my story aloud, starting to finish. The point where everything was paid for by me. The portion when I was dubbed a failure behind my back by my brother. The portion when my parents said that since I had no obligations, I didn't need anything. Something my therapist asked me struck me like a freight train. What would happen if you were no longer of use? I was aware of the solution. I was dropped. They had it already. For as soon as I stopped making payments, I stopped bending. I became irrelevant. I wasn't loved by them. I did something for them that they adored, and something deep within of me was destroyed by that understanding. However, it created room when it broke. Make room for me. Now my credit is locked. I have different bank accounts. Regarding the attempted loan scam, I anonymously reported it. I received another contact from Kelly asking whether I wanted to file charges. No, I told her. I'm not seeking retribution. Distance is what I seek, that's all. Since then, Ryan has not attempted to contact me. Dad and Mom haven't. They gave me a group SMS as their final communication. This family believes that you are dead. It didn't hurt, even though it should have. What had always been true seemed to be set out for the first time. Then an unforeseen event occurred. I received an email from Kelly, Ryan's ex-wife, a week ago. Subject line, "Thank you." She informed me that she had relocated out of state with the boys and had applied for full custody, that she discovered a better life, a better career, and a better school. She composed, "I've always assumed you're the background man, the silent one. However, I now see that you were the only one who was steady. While the rest of us took advantage of you, you kept everything together. I regret not speaking out sooner. You are missed by the lads. I'll never say anything negative about you to them. They would love to hear from you if you ever wish to write." When I read that, I started crying. For the first time, someone truly noticed me and stated it, not because I wanted to return to their life. "You're not self-centered. Don't be too theatrical. Not you. I was fair. Thank you." That was more than my own parents ever gave me. I have no regrets about what I did. The unit is being sold. The best choice I've ever made, severing them. Long late, that folder. To be honest, that was worthy of a Pulitzer. What? In a moment, I'd do it all over again. They believed they had broken me. They believed I had returned in a shambles. I'd feel bad about it, that I would feel isolated. Here's the reality, though. I don't feel isolated. I feel fresh. I feel whole. This is something I've never experienced before. They can never steal anything I possess. If you're reading this, you may be thinking that your family only calls when they're in need. Have you ever been living someone else's life and missed your own? If assisting becomes a way of life you never consented to, I have something I would like you to know. You can get out now. You have the right to refuse. You are free to leave, pack up, and never return. You can leave after placing the folder on the door. You share their blood, but you don't show them your life. They are unknown to you, your lack of response. Everything you've been giving away is something you owe yourself. And grin when people accuse you of being selfish. Because when they say that, it indicates that you have finally become your own person and are no longer their property.